I'm only going to cover this very lightly. There was a gentleman on my Discord who made a fantastic analysis of combat width in the new meta, in the new version. And he discovered certain combat widths were the most effective at reducing the maximum penalty for being over the combat width. And he didn't peer review his work, which basically means he did not submit it to Reddit and have other people read his work and see if there were potential flaws in his work. So he did submit it to Reddit, and he did discover there was a flaw in his working out, okay? Yeah, so he discovered there was a flaw in his work, and he made that revision. Don't ask me what that change was. This guy's way better at mathematics than me, okay? And when he made that revision, it turned out that 41 was nowhere near as effective as he initially thought. So here we go. So after he made the adjustments, it was the red line. The red line was the old numbers. And when he made the revision, the real total is the new one. So as you can see here at 41, so 41 is here. So as you can see here with the old number here, it was shown that 41 was very effective. He was wrong. It's not as effective as he originally thought. Now we have probably the most optimal is 42, and then here 44. But then also I guess here at 45 as well. This calculates mountains as well. These numbers calculate mountains. This calculates all terrain types. Yeah, 27 he completely got 27 wrong as well. 6 and 7. Yeah. No, the difference here isn't as much. This is not a big jump. I guess you could argue 29 as well. Is it 29? Yeah, 29. Big difference in 29 as well. Do we talk about why 10 widths are shit? Yeah, I think we should have that conversation as well, because this is going to come up later on. So, another popular misconception that I hear the community repeating over and over and over again is that 10 width divisions are mega OP. Let's first understand this chart to understand what we're looking at here. So, based on all terrain types, calculated as an average, the maximum penalty you can incur for being over the combat width, in this case, in this circumstance, is 5%. So, taking into account all terrain types and all your divisions are 10 combat width, the maximum penalty you can incur for being over the combat width, in this case, for a 10 width division, is 5%. So, hence the reason why 10 width divisions are so overly effective, because they fit into a lot of different combat widths, all terrain types, as an average. 5%, in this case, is the maximum penalty. Whereas you can see, for instance, a 36-7-8 division, 38 combat width division, can suffer a maximum penalty of about, oh god, the maths, 23% penalty being over the combat width. Hence the reason why certain combat widths are more effective overall. Are we on the same page so far? Have I lost you already? So everyone was raving about the 10 width meta. Now 10 width used to be incredibly effective. So a long time ago, 10 width used to be a really effective method for France. So as France, what you would do is you would spam 10 width divisions with nothing else, and you would also go for mass assault doctrine. So you get the high reinforce rate, and you would also get the bonuses for organ and entrenchment, I guess. I think it would even go down the right side for the 30% reinforce rate. When the reinforce rate gets so unbelievably high, getting into battle quickly is not even a factor anymore. They almost get into battle immediately. So one of the downsides of 10 widths is one of the factors is you can't get into battle quick enough. It's a very slow process. But if you go for mass mobilization, that factor is almost completely eliminated because of there's this one 30% bonus reinforce rate, and then there's this one 15% reinforce rate. Yes, so many bonuses to reinforce rate on mass mobilization. So yeah, so I made a video a long time ago. Oh, here it is. This is it. I did the 10 width meta here. This is a very old video, by the way, but this showed the effectiveness of 10 width infantry divisions. As you can see, I'm making forts, I'm making a 4-bat line, and you have to individually micro the divisions one by one to make sure that they don't collapse on themselves and they can keep reinforcing onto the front line. It's actually a tricky thing to do. I wouldn't ever recommend people try the 10 width France defense meta because it is very difficult to pull off. One of the other issues with 10 widths as well is that they have incredibly bad stats. Goes without saying, small division combat widths tend to have worse stats, so don't tend to be as effective at overall combat. Secondly, they have very, very low HP. HP is a factor of how much losses the division will take when it's in an active combat, winning or losing. So for instance, if this division loses half its HP, it will lose half of its equipment and half of its manpower. So you tend to find that small combat widths will sustain very high casualties as well as high high equipment losses whilst in combat, where divisions that have got very high HP will tend to lose less stuff in combat, in this case manpower and equipment. So what you tended to find with the 10 width combat meta as France is that you would sustain incredibly high manpower and basic equipment losses. That's the reason why you would never add anything on to the 10 width meta. If you added support artillery, you'd bleed lots of artillery and it wouldn't be effective in the long run, so it wouldn't technically be worth it. Hence the reason why they just made infantry equipment. When push comes to shove, it is more effective to go for a division that will suffer a larger penalty being over the combat width than it is to try and pump out as many 10 width divisions as possible to try and get around the maximum penalty for being over the combat width. So, in short, 10 width divisions will suffer the lowest amount of penalty when it comes down to being over the combat width, but they will bleed manpower. They will also bleed equipment. They also force you to go down the shittiest path of the doctrines, which is mass mobilization, for it to be effective. And finally, if you are up against a tank division that's ranging from 42 to 45 combat width, they will get completely and utterly steamrolled, whether it going down to losses or, well, losing the battles, but also losing manpower and equipment. Is 10 width still viable in Africa? I would personally say that where the terrain is like plains or desert, 10 width is least effective because you need some terrain to defend against. You need a little bit of terrain, defensive terrain modifiers to actually help you hold ground. Hence the reason why the meta of 10 width France was something like this. See how I'm like hugging the hills and also hugging the Maginot and behind rivers. But the weak point is here. I have to go over a river. So you were trying to use the terrain modifiers to try and get the biggest potential defense, I guess. 50 width tanks. 50 width tanks. Get out of here. Get out of here. Who asked you? A 10 width still viable as a chief garrison? Garrisons technically now are more about defending coastlines, aren't they? I'm probably going to say no on that one, because at the end of the day, you want your garrisons to be on the defense. I don't know. That's a hard one, my dude. I never defend my coastline, so you're asking the wrong person. I'd love to see how effective coordination is overall. It's that stat that we really don't know a great deal about. We could try and explain it, but at the end of the day, it's a difficult one to see one of those kind of real-world examples to see how effective it is. Any other questions, guys? Or we done talk about why 10 width, 15 width is poo?